Simon, we spoke about Ivan Toney, of course. The striker banned from football for 8 months. He's got to sit in his backside until January and not kick a ball between now and then. But what you said has actually come to light. Thomas Frank is now saying this morning at Brentford that Toney's future is with Brentford. And that is fact. And you said that he's not going to be in the move anywhere.
What I said was, if I was Matthew Benham, I'd be sitting down and turning a negative into a positive. I'd be sitting down with a player saying, you've done me wrong on here. I didn't know these challenges when I brought you to Brentford. You've done wonderfully for us and you've really repaid us on the pitch. But you're now putting me behind the 8 ball. I've got to go and sign a £25 million striker to replace you for 6 or 7 months. I've got to pay you £2 million to sit on the sidelines for nothing I've done. But I'm going to do it, and we're going to do it together, because what I want you to do and what I think you should do is sign a new contract with me, because I'm going to look after you like I've always done. And I'm going to look after you in this instance. So we're going to have a quid pro quo. And you're going to do that for me because it's the right thing to do. And then I'll put a release clause in it for 90 million quid. So if someone comes along and wants to break the bank, then everyone gets looked after. But in the meantime, you do the right thing. That's what I would be doing. That's what I said yesterday if I was Matthew Benham. And that's what seems... Because it's commercial sense. Ivan Toney is hot property. He is one of the best centre-forwards in the country. And there are many sides that will probably be very much in the offing to buy him. And I think most of the top 6 sides, excluding Man City, could use Ivan Toney.
But what are you saying? Reputationally, he remains unaffected?
Yeah, because reputation in football counts for very little. I mean, on the pitch stuff is more important than football managers. Everyone knows that what he did was silly, including the boy himself. But the fact of the matter is that's done. His on-the-pitch performances have been remarkable. He gave Arsenal a remarkable running around in the game when Brentford beat them. He's a good player who scores a lot of goals, and he will be bought by somebody at some point. So what Brentford needed to do was not have the reward for him getting himself banned, come back, and then have 18 months left in his contract, and it being ticked down to the benefit of him, and having to sell him for 25 million quid the following summer because there was no value in him because he was going to run it down to nothing.
Do you think this has fell in Brentford's lap, albeit they've lost a player for a length of period of time? Because otherwise, if this hadn't have happened, chances are bids would have come in this summer.
Fine, but they'd have been in control of that to some extent because there's 2 years left on his contract, wouldn't they? Yeah. They'd have gone, OK, you want Ivan Toney, Manchester United, you want Ivan Toney, Liverpool, you want Ivan Toney, Arsenal, whoever it is that wants him, you've got to write a cheque out for 70, 80, 90 million quid, and then you can have him, and then we'll have control of our own destiny.
Actually, in the last few minutes, Thomas Frank has been talking about Toney, and this was his comment.
His future is with Brentford. That's the thing. There's no doubt about that. The thing is that instead of a problem, I like to call it a challenge. We were, for various reasons, prepared for what will happen if someone in the front line will leave us, and that's why we are very keen on signing Xhadi in January window. So now we have 4 players that clearly can play the front 3. Sometimes we play with 2, sometimes we play with 3. In Xhadi, Brian, Wissa, and Keane Lewis Potter. Plus we have Justice Silva that can play to the side. Plus we have Dams that can play to the side. So we actually think that we, in-house, have some good replacement in Wissa and Kevin Xhadi.
Mm-hmm. So that was Thomas Frank. I mean, undoubtedly, Stuart, Toney has embarrassed the football club. He's compromised the football club, and he's compromised himself. Mm. And he knows that. I'm sure that he knows that. From your experience, does it get through to footballers today, and you're in and amongst them on a regular basis, that they can't bet?
I always felt as though, I don't know Ivan Toney, I've never met him before, but
he's a good lad.
I've always felt as though he's bright enough to know himself. You know, he comes across that way from the outside, and I think he owes a real debt of gratitude to Brentford for sticking by him. And if it was me and I was in his position, you almost lay yourself down to Brentford and say, listen, thanks for what you've done, thanks for sticking by me.
But how have they stuck by him? They've got a contract with him, got an obligation. I don't think he's embarrassed the football club for a start. I think he's embarrassed himself, and he's made himself look silly.
Yeah, but he's an employee of the football at this moment in time. So,
and there might be an argument to suggest
that
they
can't take the pitch, Simon, for him. So that's what he's done to embarrass them.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's compromised them. That's not embarrassed them. They're not complicit with it. They didn't jump in bed with him. They knew nothing about it, and they're the victims of it. So I don't think embarrassment's the right word. But the point is this: is that I wonder if there was any grounds, not that they would do it, because the morality of football is in the bin when it comes to actually looking at things for what they are, because there will always be reasons why football clubs say, well, I can't do that because he's such an asset, right? And I'll tolerate this because he's such an asset. And that's why sometimes the culture of football isn't what it could and should be. In this instance, right, look, we spoke about it yesterday. How do you square a circle when forever and a day the staple diet of footballers active of occupying their time on the way to games was card schools? How do you square this particular mentality? Most of the players during the 70s, 80s and 90s, and even the early 2000s, could be found in one or two places after football, on the golf course or in a betting shop. And that was a staple diet. Now, Piercy might not have been in that bracket, but there were a lot of them that were. So with that in mind, there does have to be a cultural reset. And suffice to say, I might add, and this is not going to be a very popular comment, most of it was British players, because, again, of my mentality and attitude towards British players, their attitude, the way that managers have behaved in that way themselves. And that is why there has often been a massive infusion of foreign coaches and foreign players, because of the way that they operate with a degree of professionalism. Now, that's being very generalistic, but in this instance, what Brentford are doing, it's very interesting, Thomas Frank. I tell you, he's a bloody dream, isn't he? He's basically telling the chairman he doesn't need to buy any players in the summer to replace him because he's already got them in the locker. You can't get better than that. I mean, Matthew Benham must think all his Christmases have come at once with this fella, because A, he commits his future to the football club, B, he talks about staying there for a very, very significant period of time and not interested in outside noise when most people try to index him with bigger jobs, and C, now he's basically saying we've priced in Toney being out of the equation, we've already got it in the dressing room. So the chairman's sitting there thinking, this is wonderful, I haven't got to buy anyone.
Here's the thing though, Simon, Toney himself might have fancied a move because of what he's done on the pitch.
Oh, he will fancy a move.
And he might have fancied a move in the next window.
And he will fancy a move
but he's
in the next window.
But he can't move in the next window because he's virtually grounded himself.
He'll fancy a next move in the next available window. Because with due respect, in the same way that Christian Eriksen was out of the door quicker than a quick thing from Quickland at Brentford when he was given an opportunity to go to Man United, with due respect to Brentford, so will Ivan Toney if someone like Manchester United came along. The issue for me is that if that is to happen, and that unfortunate circumstances of the reward for your success as a smaller club is everyone gets to pillage your players, is at least you must be able to control the economic side of it, which is you can, if you're going to have him, if you're going to take him, you ain't getting him for nothing.
Stuart, before we hit the break, and we will move on from this because we know what Toney has done and we know how he's been punished. Will the Ivan Toney situation get to players in the modern day now? Players who might have thought today, I'm gonna lump on this weekend on so and so to beat so and so or whatever. Not in the knowledge that they can do it, but they might have done it. Will the situation with Toney put them off doing it?
I sincerely hope so. I think it will. I think they see a player that's at the top of his game, sitting out the game for 8 months. Your career comes and goes really quickly. So to miss 8 months when you're fully fit is a real blow for any player. I hope that modern day players do, mainly for the reason I want players to have a career in the game, earn whatever they earn in the game, and have that money for themselves in later life. It was always drummed into me, the value of money, by my father. You know what I mean? So, it astounds me how readily footballers are parted from their money because they work too hard for it.
But then you see the irony as well. I mean, here's me being a little bit of a devil's advocate. This is an industry that constantly lectures people about how to behave itself, right? Yeah, we've got the main broadcaster force-feeding betting down the channel. We'll talk about betting, and the first thing we'll cut away to is a betting advert, right? Every single club until recently has had bleeding betting adverts on the front of their shirts. But by the way, don't you guys do it? I agree they shouldn't do it. I agree they should be able to operate because of the integrity of the game.
Yeah, but these broadcasters are involved in a commercial business.
Understood. But then ultimately the industry's sitting there going, we'll embrace every single facet. We don't care if the fans bet and they find themselves going to hell in a handcart. We only care about whether the players do it. And of course the reasons for that
players are the participants.
The reasons for that is, they're also human beings, is because of the sporting integrity. The idea that somehow we could get ourselves into a Grobbelaar situation, or we could get ourselves into a situation where there's integrity of the game comes to the fore. That's the real reason, because when it comes down to it, it isn't that much of a crime, is it? It's only a crime because the law says they shouldn't do it, and ultimately, or the rule in football says they shouldn't do it. But by the way, run around with a betting advert on the front of your shirt, run around with a main broadcaster from dawn till dusk telling us Sky Bet is the way to go, and that's what we should be doing. So there is such a level of hypocrisy in the sport that you have to accept that some people will get mixed messages, but that doesn't mean...
I don't accept it as a mixed message at all.
Well, it is. On one hand, it's saying it's a wonderful thing to do, and another thing saying it's a wonderful thing not for the players to do.
It's a wonderful thing for you, but you can't do it.
Yeah, and that's where we come into play.
You can separate the two quite easily.
Well, you can, and you can say that ultimately
there are those who can and those who can't.
And there absolutely, and of course the benefits of being a footballer far outweigh certain aspects of other opportunities in life.
Educate me. Where's the mixed message in that? But you can't. Because you've got an industry that is bombarding the sports with a sentiment about. So if the sport is so religiously against the nature of betting because some component part of it affects the integrity of the sport, then the fact that it doubles down and uses every opportunity to promote it does smack of an element of hypocrisy. But I'm also in agreement with you, which is if you tell a player, here's what you can do, right? You can have this wonderful long career, you can be adored and celebrated, and you're going to get more money than you can ever imagine. But you know what? You can't place a bet on football. 99% of intelligent footballers from 16 years of age up to 36 would turn around and say, well, I just won't bet. Because what's the consequence? The consequence is I'll have the upside, thank you, not the down.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.